This is the Metal Queens podcast. I'm Steve Richards. Welcome to another episode. Today's guest is one of the most gifted songwriters of her generation. She's a 5-time Grammy nominee whose voice has become instantly recognizable around the world, while her songwriting has helped create some of the biggest songs of the last 2 decades. From Love the Way You Lie, Coming Home, and collaborations with Eminem, Dr. Dre, Jelly Roll, Zedd, and Motionless in White, to writing music featured in blockbuster films like Fast and Furious, Aquaman, Venom, and 50 Shades of Grey. Her fingerprints are literally everywhere. Now, she's revealing her most personal work yet with her incredible new album, Wasted Potential, a brutally honest look at identity, nostalgia, self-worth, and finding peace with who we are. I'm happy to have Skylar Grey join me here on the Metal Queens podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much. What an intro.
Wasted Potential. It feels like an album and less like an album and more like reading pages from your diary. Was there ever a moment, Skylar, where you questioned whether some of these songs were almost too personal to release?
No, I've never felt like a song was too personal to release because I just believe that if I'm feeling something, there's somebody out there who's going to relate to it. And even if it's one person, it's like worth it for me to just put anything out that I feel could help somebody else going through a similar situation or something. So, yeah, I've never had any fears about releasing super personal stuff.
You describe songwriting as performing autopsies on past versions of yourself. That is such a vivid image. How do you know when you've truly uncovered the emotional truth behind a song?
Yeah, well, I guess I write a lot looking back, like looking back at things I went through or certain times in my life. Sometimes when I'm going through something, it's hard in that moment to totally understand what's happening, you know? And so hindsight is 2020. And so when I'm able to reflect on a situation, I can describe it better and I can work through it better with words. Yeah, it's hard to put things into words sometimes when you're in the middle of it. So yeah, I do a lot of writing about the past, and I don't I just base everything on feeling. So um, I'll just describe things and try to express myself with different words and say things in ways that have, never been said before. Hopefully, it's a unique way to say something. We all have very similar emotions as humans. Um, and so I just try to like come up with unique ways to get an emotion across. And I just base it on my feeling. If it's like hitting and it makes me feel a certain way, then I know that that's right. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. This album, it opens with Nirvana, where you revisit the childhood home you once wanted to escape. What emotions came flooding back, Skylar, while writing that song?
I mean, honestly, when I was writing Nirvana, I could have written 50 more verses.
Mm.
Just all the memories that I had, thinking about my childhood and my house that I grew up in. I wanted to escape so bad. It was such a small town, and I didn't feel like I belonged there. I didn't feel like anybody understood me. I was super weird and artistic, and we were in the middle of the Midwest in cornfields. And so I just didn't feel like I related to a lot of people there. Um, and so, yeah, I wanted to burn my house down. I ran away. Um, yeah, I couldn't wait to just get out and be old enough to leave and chase my dreams. And that's what I did when I was 17. I dropped out of high school, moved to LA, to chase my dreams. But that song is about looking back at my childhood and my childhood home and realizing how wonderful my childhood actually was, and my parents and my house and just my whole upbringing. I see it now with such a different lens after having left and been through the ringer in the music industry and traveled the world, lived in big cities. And there is something so appealing now to me about like a small town and a slow pace and just a simple life. And so I have a completely different appreciation for my childhood now. And yeah, that's what that song's about.
Your music, it often explores self-inflicted wounds rather than blaming others. Was accepting personal responsibility one of the hardest parts of making this record?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to blame other people. It's always easier to say, the label, fucked me up or whatever. But as I look back at my life, I take mostly full responsibility for all my failures, and even the bad relationships I got myself into. Anything really negative that's happened in my life has been self-inflicted. And I think part of that was because I was so bored growing up in that small town. I was seeking some kind of wild adventure or just drama for the sake of entertainment.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think admitting that things were my fault was hard, but also it took a weight off of me. It was like to admit it was just a nice release. I needed to write these songs and kind of have these realizations to let go of a lot of things.
You have described your sound, Skylar, as bubble grunge. It's such an interesting combination. What does that term mean to you?
Well, I grew up listening to 90s pop and grunge. And so with this album, I wanted to, because I'm talking about my childhood and everything, I wanted it to have a nostalgic feel based on the music I listened to in my childhood. But the music I listened to was so all over the place. It was everything from Spice Girls to Nirvana to Fiona Apple to Radiohead. And so I didn't feel like I could label the music strictly like grunge or pop or something like that. Like it had to be a blend, and so I created the name bubblegrunge as a genre label that basically is just, showing the blend between or describing the blend between pop and grunge from the 90s.
Bruises. That may be one of your most emotionally devastating songs. After writing it, did you actually feel lighter?
100%. That song was medicine to write. I cried while I was writing it multiple times. Still sometimes cry when I'm singing it or listening to it. Yeah,
Mm.
because it's so true, I beat myself up. I've always beat myself up since I was a little kid. If I hit a wrong note at a show, if I got a bad grade, if somebody didn't like me, I was just constantly beating myself up. And so I wrote a song finally about that. And the song does not offer any solutions. It's just a very depressing, like almost suicidal level song. But by writing it, I felt like I had just had the deepest therapy session or series of sessions in my life. And it got me through all of that darkness. And I was able to kind of stop beating myself up so much afterwards.
Is music still therapy, or has it become something even bigger for you?
I mean, it's a lot of things, but therapy is a huge part of it. I always write songs about true emotions and things that I'm going through or things that I've gone through, trying to understand who I am, why I am the way I am. Life is a journey of just self-discovery. It never stops. I don't think we ever stop learning about who we are. And so I do that through music, but it's also my career. And I also, there's just so many more facets to what music is to me. But therapy is like the main thing for sure.
Millions, of course, know your songs before they know who you are and your name. Has it ever been frustrating watching songs become global hits while staying behind the scenes, or is it just as rewarding for you?
It kind of depends on the situation. There's a lot of songs that I've given to other artists that kind of hurt to give it away
Mm.
because it was so personal, or because I just didn't think they did as good a job as me. And so I'm like, oh man. Um, but for example, Rest in Peace with Motionless in White was the opposite experience. I never predicted or imagined the song would end up where it is sonically, and I just completely exceeded all the expectations and hopes I had for that song. And I was glad to be able to stay on it as a feature. Yeah, so it really just depends on the situation.
Yeah, congratulations on RIP hitting #1 on the Hard Rock chart. I told you earlier I had a chance to talk to Chris and interview him this week. He's such a huge fan of yours. I saw the show in Charlotte recently, and he says so many great things about you before he does that song, and
Aw.
misses that you're not there. I know you were there for one of the opening night of the tour,
I was
right?
there opening night, and I was at the Forum in LA, and I'll jump out for a couple more.
Had to be a special moment both
Yeah,
times.
so
Yeah,
special.
yeah. How different is it performing with a metal audience? This is the Metal Queens podcast compared to your own shows.
I mean, there's a lot more energy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Uh, I love the community so much. And I've always been drawn to darker music and darker aesthetics. And so I feel right at home.
You have said the biggest drug you've ever found is music. Do
Mhm.
songs usually begin with lyrics, melodies, or emotions?
It all depends. I try to not have any rules when it comes to creating music. So sometimes it starts with a lyric idea, sometimes it starts with a melody, or sometimes I'm just feeling a certain way and I want to write about it. And so I just sit down and try to figure it out. Sometimes I write songs in my dreams. Actually, RIP came to me in a dream. So it's no rules.
Mm. You have traded Hollywood for one of my favorite places, not only because I love wine, a ranch in Napa Valley, surrounded by animals, home studios, and some wonderfully strange collectibles that you have there. Has that slower lifestyle completely changed you creatively?
It hasn't changed me. Because I grew up in such a rural environment, um, and then I left and I moved to LA and I lived in a big city and got to experience both. Um, I I've always felt more at home in nature. And so, being in LA, it's not just nature, it's also the people. Like being in LA was the first time I ever experienced people who were flaky or didn't show up for a meeting or whatever. And then also just were like super fake friends and didn't really care and will step on each other to get to where they want to be, using everybody around them as stepping stones. And I don't like that. And I also just feel like I kind of lost myself in LA because I was surrounded by so many opinions, so many industry people telling me what they thought I should do or be as an artist. And I got really lost. I started like questioning my my whole like artistic inspiration and who I wanted to be. It put me into a deep writer's block when I was there. And so I eventually left. I moved to Oregon. I moved to Utah. So I was always trying to like find a rural environment where I could, hear myself think, hear my own inner voice, and work basically remotely. And so now that I'm in Napa Valley, I moved here because of love. I came for the wine and stayed for the love. But it's the perfect blend because it's got that like rural farm life vibe, but it's also super close to LA. It's an hour flight. And so I can work and stay active, but have that peace and quiet that I need to be creative.
All right, we are looking at the famous attic studio right here,
Yep.
where you're at right now. There it is with the look at that. Okay, the what? The antler throne, of course. I love the chair. That's great with your name on it. A vintage Les Paul you have from Russell Crowe. That sounds like something out of a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, what a great room. There's the Les Paul. Love it.
Yeah, so it's a Les Paul Jr. and Russell Crowe came to one of my shows in LA years ago, and he noticed that the guitar I was playing was too big for me. And so he was like, I'm gonna go buy you a different, smaller guitar. And he just went out and bought this and got it for me, gave it to me, and it was the sweetest thing.
Very
So
cool.
there it is. I think it's like a 40s or 50s Les Paul Jr. I can't remember exactly the date, but
That is so cool. Thank you for showing us that in the now famous Skylar Grey attic studio in Napa. So, after creating what may be your most personal album, where do you feel your songwriting is heading next, and what is next for you for the rest of this year and into next year?
well, we were talking about the song Bruises, and that's the darkest, emotionally darkest song I've ever written. And what happened after I wrote that was and I've always been drawn to darker music, but after I wrote that song and I went back into the studio to make more music, I struggled to write anything dark again. Because I felt like I had gotten that weight off of me, and I just wanted to like write feel good music suddenly. And so that was kind of the start of this album, Wasted Potential. And so there's a bunch of like kind of bubbly songs on the album that is not typically my style, but I just was in the mood to write bubbly songs after writing Bruises. But now I feel like I got the bubbly stuff out of my system and I'm leaning back towards going darker again.
Nice.
So I don't know where that's going. I don't know what that'll become, but I feel an itch. I want to write. I want to create more. I don't want to wait 5 years to put out another album like I normally do. I want to just keep making music and put out stuff faster. And I just feel myself wanting to go darker. And I think also this collaboration with Motionless in White has inspired me a lot to maybe go down that road more in the rock space.
Love it. We might be seeing Skylar Grey again here on the Metal Queens podcast with this next release coming.
Yeah.
Wasted Potential, one of those albums that reminds us we're all works in progress and that our scars often become our greatest songs. Congratulations on this great, incredible record. Congratulations on the success of R.I.P. with Chris Motionless and Motionless in White. Can't wait to see what's next. And everyone watching and listening, be sure to stream Wasted Potential, available everywhere now. Follow Skylar Grey on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to the Metal Queens podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere you get your podcast. Thanks to our new sponsor, Warn Star Rock Clothing, warnstar.com. They've got great merch like this shirt. So check them out as well. Skylar Grey, thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for watching. I'm Steve Richards. I'll talk to you again next time.